Welcome back. I'm Jeanne Gallagher, founder of Discover Rising Tides, and welcome back to Discover Rising Tides, How the Outside Makes the Inside Better, where we explore the importance of the outdoors and maintaining life balance. And we're talking with Denise Stegall, healthy living coach and international best-selling author of Healthy Living, Happy Life, a practical path to finding a healthy lifestyle that works for you, and curator of healthy, oh, good Lord, Healthy Living, Healthy List. I got it.
Living healthy list.
Okay, so let's get started because today's topic is all about my world and being outside in nature.
I am so excited about this talk. I'm so excited. I'm thinking I'm out in nature. I'm the leopard out in nature, like enjoying the wild. Okay, so wild outside my window. I'm in Minnesota today, so we got some wildness here. We got some beautiful foliage. Being outside, no matter what time of year, is amazing. So, where are you today, Jeanne?
So today being outside is really, well, let me tell you about the other morning before we get to the outside part, because it was still dark and you're talking about being outside and animals. The coyotes were singing at,
Ooh.
I don't know, 4:30 in the morning, which usually you hear them later in the afternoon, but it was really fun to listen. And they were not that far away. I live close to a canyon. And so I know that they were probably in my neighbor's backyard, but it was just amazing to listen to that, and kind of creepy because it was still pitch black dark out, but yes.
Well, at least the good thing is you were inside, not
Yeah,
outside where the
exactly.
coyotes.
Well, I thought about that as I was supposed to be hauling the garbage out to the front, out to the main road. I thought I might wait a moment or two.
Yeah, maybe that's another conversation. There is a good time to be outdoors and maybe not such a good time to be outdoors. We're
Yeah,
talking about the good
exactly.
times though. So it's interesting, this time of year, it's fall. And so, as the year goes on and it's starting to the sun's coming up later in the morning, I notice that I'm sleeping a little bit later. Whereas in the summertime, I'm one of those, as soon as the sun comes up, I'm awake. And so in the summertime, I'm awake like super duper early. I probably would have been awake with the coyotes. But this time of year, it's starting to get a little bit later. And that's always an interesting thing because like I don't want to have to wake up with an alarm clock. So I kind of change my schedule so I can wake up with the sun. So we're going to talk a little bit about sunlight and how that helps with energy. Like I said, a lot of people wake up with the sun. I am absolutely one of those people. In the deep darkness of winter, I might be sleeping till 8 o'clock in the morning. And as a business person, people are like, oh my God, how can you sleep that late? But it ebbs and flows. And I think that's kind of an important piece of life. And in nature ebbs and flows. And I think we need to really follow that a little bit more. And we'll talk a little bit about that ebb and flow in a few minutes. So, what I love about being out in nature, especially in the morning as the sun is coming up over the horizon, it's such a great time to go outside. You don't need your sunglasses, at least not yet. So you can go out there and get all of the benefits of the sun. Basically, the sun coming up, it gives you energy, it gives you motivation, but it also helps you to actually sleep better later on in the day. Why? It helps with your circadian rhythms. So being outside in the sun is beneficial in so many different ways. What's your favorite time of day to be outside, Jeanne?
I love the mornings. I love to be out. The birds are singing. And if I'm by the water, especially the ocean, it's really calm in the morning and the water is really sparkly. It looks like diamonds on the water. And that is one of my most favorite times year round, in the morning. And sitting outside, having a cup of coffee and reading a book before I start the day is one of my favorite ways to get that going.
I agree. It's one of my favorite things to do in the morning also is to do a little bit of meditation outside. It's so different than in when the weather's cooler. okay, I'm in Minnesota a lot. So if it's cooler, I do my meditations inside. When I can be outside and do my meditations, and they're short, 5 minutes, 12 minutes, they're not very long. But what I notice is, again, the energy around those meditations is so different when I'm outside in the sun. Just the energy, the vibration that the sun gives out, I can feel it in my body. You can feel the warmth when the sun comes around. You can just feel that warming your whole body. And that energy, that kind of energy gets us moving. It really energizes us in so many different ways. It's motivational, it's creativity, all of those things that as entrepreneurs and business owners, or business women and a few smart men, we really need to keep on top of our game if we're going to continue to be successful, whatever that means to each one of us. We need to continue to be creative. We need to continue to be motivated. And sometimes the motivation is, sometimes we even need to pivot. And when you're spending the time in the sun and you can feel that energy, those type of decisions come so much easier than if you're sitting inside in under artificial light. The artificial light it can be really depressing. It can actually be very tiring and unmotivating, because if you're inside all day, think of in a school, with those horrible lights that they have, fluorescent lights. Couldn't think of them. Fluorescent lights, like, think about, back in the day when you're in school, by like 11 o'clock, you're just like, oh my God, I have to go to school till 3 o'clock. And it was just, and I don't think we understood back then the importance of the sunlight, how it keeps us motivated, keeps us energized, and really moving forward. I mean, schools are dark. A lot of office buildings can be really dark. And then they have this fluorescent light, which is just incredibly bright, but unnatural. And our brain knows the difference.
And it's easy to say in the summertime when the weather's nice, yes, I'm going to go outside in the morning and have a cup of coffee and enjoy the world waking up and the birds waking up. But it's harder to do that as the seasons change. And I have been laughed at a couple of times because I might be sitting on the back porch wrapped in a blanket with my winter coat on. And maybe I'm a little cold, but I still need that. And you notice when it's a rainy day, or if you had a few rainy days in a row and you haven't been outside to get that morning sun, how internally sad you can feel, or unmotivated.
Yeah, I think the motivation is the biggest challenge. We feel unmotivated, we're tired, we just kind of feel and the longer we do that, it really starts to get into a really negative cycle. So what I really love to do is, I have in my calendar, I'm a big fan of calendar management. I actually have it in my calendar every morning to go sit outside for 5 minutes. And I've been known to sit outside at 8 o'clock in the morning with the fire table on. It is what it is. Now, I will be the first person to admit, if it's minus 30, I'm not going out.
Right. Well, there are some exceptions.
But what I might do is I might get in the car and take a drive in the morning, might go over to my trail. There are so many, we come up with so many excuses not to do something. And when it's minus 30, let me tell you, there are a lot of excuses to stay in bed. But, and again, that's about motivation, and by putting it on my calendar, just saying, go look at the sun. If it's on my calendar, it happens. If it's not on my calendar, it doesn't happen. So, other benefits of the sun, obviously vitamin D. It is the number one best way to get your vitamin D. And the estheticians that are going to be listening, and you're going to freak out here. When you go out in the morning, no sunglasses, no sunscreen. Your body needs to absorb the sun so it can actually absorb and metabolize vitamin D. So often we go out slathered, and you see how pale I am. My husband's a redhead, so yes, we spend, we when we're outside, we most of the for a extended period of time, we have a lot of sunscreen on. But if we did that all the time, we would never get the benefit of the vitamin D. So this is something to do in the morning when the sun's not so strong. And you can, if you're only going to be out for 10, 15 minutes and to get that benefit, you don't need much more than that to get the benefit of the sunlight that early in the morning.
So thank you. This is, I think that before we wrap this up, actually, let me just say one other thing about the vitamin D piece. And we've talked about you've heard people talking about health, and especially with COVID and staying healthy. And I think through this whole conversation, unfortunately, the medical field wasn't having these conversations during COVID, now afterwards, but I think everybody needs to realize how important, or has realized how important, exposure to vitamin D is and to our continued daily health. So having you bring up this topic is so important. And the circadian rhythm is also important too, because once we disrupt our sleep patterns, how we sleep and the quality of sleep that we have really affects our internal and our external health too. So thank you very much for bringing this topic up. And as people are listening, if they want to hear more or they need more suggestions, I implore them to reach out to you and have those continued conversations.
Fabulous. I think this is such a great topic. It's something that will bring us all from, the stress and whatever we've got going on to being successful in our physical, professional, and personal lives. And that's what we're looking for in these conversations, is to help you to people to reach those goals.
Thanks, Denise.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Denise Stegall. I am the Healthy Lifestyle Coach, or the Healthy Living Liaison, and curator at livinghealthylist.com. And I'm really excited today about my recent conversation with my friend, Jeanne Gallagher. Jeanne is a financial advisor with Seaside Solutions and the amazing host of the podcast, Discover Rising Tides, How the Outside Makes the Inside Better. We had an in-depth conversation on the topic of, get this, contentment, and why that is actually a bad thing for you. Watch more and subscribe to Discover Rising Tides at discoverrisingtides.com. I'll see you there.
Welcome back. Jeanne Gallagher with Discover Rising Tides, How the Outside Makes the Inside Better, where we talk about the importance of the outdoors and maintaining life balance. And through this series, we'll be talking with women business owners to understand their journey. And today we're discovering embracing nature and talking with Denise Stegall, healthy living coach and curator at Healthy Living Healthy List.
Hello again. It is always so much fun to have these conversations with you. You and I have, it's funny, we're kind of from different coasts, but we have so many of the same thought processes, and we enjoy so many of the same things. So I want to talk today a little bit about, kind of continue our last conversation about sunlight. And we touched on our circadian rhythms. I mentioned it in the beginning, and then as we were closing, you were talking about it. And I think what's really important to recognize with circadian rhythms, twice a year, our rhythms get screwed up because of daylight savings time. And
this might be our last one. I'm hearing kind of rumors like this could be the last one. So go ahead.
It could be. And
I hope so. Cross your fingers.
Most of the world actually does not use daylight savings time. So it really has been in, the more industrialized countries that we've adopted it. And, for whatever reason, farmers, more daylight, whatever they thought was a good idea. And here in Minnesota, I always hear, for the farmers. So, but whatever, they have tractors now, so it's not such a big deal. And they have lamps or lights. So with our circadian rhythms, we know how that, when as it, and our circadian rhythms and our hormones kind of work in tandem here. In the morning, we get up, we wake up, and as the sun goes down, we get tired and we sleep. That's the way it's supposed to go. With daylight savings time, even though it's an hour forward or an hour back, that 1 hour of sunlight can actually screw up our circadian rhythm and actually keep us awake longer. And also we might fall asleep, but it wakes us up more frequently than we would normally. So with daylight savings coming up in November, I think November 4th, I think you said, we need to start thinking about this now, because how many times, especially when you're young in a career, I'm saying this when I was young in my career, how many times you get to work on that Monday and you get to work and you're like, oh shit, I'm an hour late. Oops. And you're all excited, and then you feel really stupid, right? Because they talked about it all weekend long, but your body's not quite there. Your mind's not there. It's really unnatural. So I think it's really important to mention that, and for us to be prepared as, this is getting closer. So maybe we start going to bed a little bit earlier. Like we go full.
Well, if I went in bed any earlier, I'd be in bed by dinner time.
Fall back.
Yeah.
So losing that, kind of what will fall back, that extra hour, is it going to keep us awake longer? Are we going to be able to sleep? It's really going to be difficult. So we need to start thinking about it now. And even if we start going to bed, at a different time, 10 minutes, 10 minutes different, 15 minutes different, to kind of get ourselves used to that, before it actually happens. And that Monday arrives and, surprise, it's daylight savings time, you lost an hour. We don't want to get to that point, because that just completely ruins the day. It messes the whole week up. And then studies that they have done have actually found that it can take weeks to months to actually get your circadian rhythm back in rhythm. Mm-hmm. And by the time it's actually back on track, guess what? We're changing it again.
I think one of the challenges for me in the time change is the darkness at night. And so when I was living in Maine, I grew up there and the kids were raised there, at 4:00, it's darker than a pocket. And that's really difficult. And I think that this leads into what you wanted to talk about in this segment, having to do with, if we shift just a little bit, but talk about the time change at the same time, and disconnecting and using nature to disconnect from the digital world is really the topic of this particular segment. But what's really difficult for me, or maybe I'm asking for a friend, is that when it's dark at 4 or 5 or 5:30, it's so easy to check out into digital nothingness land.
It absolutely is. And most of us are guilty of it. It's crazy. So all of the digital stuff, our computers, our phones, our remote controls, our cars, all of these things were invented to make life easier. It's not, or easier and better. In a lot of ways, yes, it's making it easier. I love driving my car to the supermarket because I don't want to have to walk the 6 miles to the supermarket. So that makes it easier. On the flip side, of course, I'm not getting that 6-mile walk in. Actually, it's 3 miles now that I think about it, but still. So that does make it easier. Having a telephone to call my mom, that's easy because I live 1,000 miles away. So it's great when I'm using it in that capacity. But the fact that our telephones are now pocket size and we carry them with us, and they have social media, they have games, they have telephones, they have access to the internet. We're never completely away from it. And so is that making life better, or is it making life worse? In my opinion, it's making it worse. Because like you said, at 4:00 in the afternoon, where, it's dark out, what do? kind of sit, it's almost like, kind of get the blankie, get on the couch at 4 o'clock, get in your comfy blankie and, scroll through social media or put the TV on or whatever. We're not then spending time outside. We're not spending time engaging with people. As much as people think these connections online, the friends and the check-ins and whatever it is, unless you're actually speaking to somebody like you and I speak here one-on-one, we're having a conversation. It's not just me typing Jeanne saying, hey, Jeanne, what do you think about digital detox? And you respond. And maybe I don't see that for, 20 minutes. Or I'm in the middle of something and go, oh, Jeanne texted me. Mm-hmm. So it's changing our lives in so many different ways, on so many different levels, that I think it's really an important piece of this conversation about getting out in nature. How does the outside make the inside better? If we're sitting, even when it's dark, 4 o'clock in the evening, we could still go outside. What are the sounds in the evening? The other day, in our other segment, you were talking about that coyotes. A couple of years ago, Mark and I, one evening, were out in our hot tub, and we heard a wolf howling or crying, which is a very different sound than a coyote, and really jarring. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, really freaking cool.
Yeah.
We're like, that was a wolf. Mm-hmm. We wouldn't have heard it if we were sitting inside, flipping on flipping the TV screen. That was something, I mean, that happened about 4 years ago. And I still, when I think about it, I get excited. Mm-hmm. It's nature, nature, the outside making me like memories and thoughts and feelings. How does the phone or the computer make you feel? How do you feel when you're out in nature?
So I've been binging. So I'm going to talk about digital here for a second, but there's a purpose here. I've been binging Peter Santinello's YouTube channel. And so I'm sure many people have heard of him because he has millions of views on his each of his videos, but he goes around the world and a ton of time in the United States just talking with people. It's really amazing. And so I watched all of the Amish videos, and fascinating, by the way. But what I took out of it was, this is what life used to be like, where we actually had conversations, and you didn't have that digital pull to doom scroll, and how much more simple things were, but how there was so much more of a quality of being present. And yes, you got to be outside. There's, you're not pulled by electronics to sit dormant. And it really made me miss what we all used to have. And it was a fascinating series, but even more fascinating to realize where we are now and how much these, and whether they're old world Amish or some of them are by choice, without electricity. So there are pieces I'm glad I can turn my lights on. However, they're sitting around the table and having a conversation with family members and just being present.
What would it be like if we sat around the table again, more than, the holidays or the special occasions? What if we sat around the dinner table and actually talked about things that matter? Mm-hmm. Put politics, put religion aside. What are the things that matter to each of us? And I bet we'd all be surprised during those conversations. And this is even with family, people we know. We would be surprised at some of the things that are important to them. Mm-hmm. And so maybe a challenge conversations. Mm-hmm.
Maybe a challenge that we can put out to the listeners, or maybe a challenge that we could do ourselves. As I say this, I'm like, oh boy, what are we going to get into here? But maybe a challenge that should happen is that there are some guidelines with when we pull out our phone, and there are guidelines about when we are sitting dormant. and needing to get outside, but also most importantly, just needing to disconnect from the numbing that happens on our phones. And what is that for? People need to decide, what does that look like? So between the certain hours of the day, you don't pick up your phone. And for some people, it's going to have to be small increments to make it achievable, which is a sad thing to say, but it's realistic. But what can we do to improve our each person's internal and external mind, thoughts, and feelings?
You just made a good point. Thoughts and feelings. If we're constantly, involved in the digital world, we don't have our own thoughts. We don't have our own feelings. They're artificial. It's, you read something that someone else has written, something about how they feel. No, yes, then you could potentially take that and like, well, what do I think about that? How do I feel about that? But it may be something that you're really not that interested in. And I think that's another piece, is we're interested in all of these things and all of the comments that other people have that don't actually apply to us or affect us. So I wanted to kind of touch on a point where you said, for some people it would be harder to do a digital detox, and it definitely depends on career. So for me, I know I don't look at my phone very often after 7 p.m. At usually between 5 and 6-ish, 6:30, I'm out on the trail doing either I can run again, my 3-mile run or my 4-mile walks. That's what I'm doing. So usually by the time I get home, I'll check the phone just in case, if my mom texted me or my mom called, she's important. The text that I get from, the doctor, that can wait. I have an eye doctor appointment. Yeah, I know that can wait. But after 7 o'clock, unless somebody calls me, and it's usually, a family member or a friend, I don't pick up that phone. My husband, on the other hand, because his phone is such a big part of his work, that can be harder. So he's on call this week. So the phone is with him all the time. It has to be in case of emergency, something's going on. The challenge with that, though, and this is what a lot of people are going to go, oh yeah, the phone comes into the bedroom. His phone comes into the bedroom. So how can you digitally detox even overnight if the phone is sitting right there?
If it's sitting there, it doesn't mean you have to pick it up. That's the challenge. Or if you're picking it up for a work thing, it doesn't mean that you're also opening your apps to look at social media. So there can be, you can have the similar rules or guidelines for yourself with work exceptions and still detox.
I think that's brilliant. It really is. We all need to recharge, just like our phones, right? We got to recharge our phones. We need to recharge our batteries. And sometimes recharging is just sitting and being and thinking, give it a name, meditation, sitting quietly, we talk about being out in nature. It doesn't matter what time of the year it is, what time of day. Sometimes I'll go out and just, be out on the deck for a few minutes, just to be outside. When it's dark out, like in the dead of winter, we have one of those sun lamps. And that's fabulous. The sun lamp for me has really changed the way I feel in the winter. I don't feel that lazy kind of, I'll just kind of scroll. So that's something that I definitely would recommend for the darker months, and especially those of us who live pretty far north. It gets dark early and for a long time. So there is definitely a correlation with weather and sunlight and digital challenges, detoxing, and being out in nature. All of those things can be stressful. What helps is being out in nature.
Great. Thanks, Denise, and look forward to segment number 3 on this topic. And come on back, everybody. We'll be talking some more. Okay, now I'm ready. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jeanne Gallagher with Discover Rising Tides, How the Outside Makes the Inside Better. And I'm talking with Denise Stegall, international best-selling author and healthy living coach. And our subject is everything Discover Rising Tides. It's all about nature and how important it is to us and how it affects us and how we're affected when we're not in it. And so our segment 3, we're going to talk about motivation and creativity. So kick us off, Denise.
Okay, so we're talking about how nature can really help us to explode in so many great ways. You know, when it comes to reaching our personal goals, our professional goals, our physical goals, being out in nature changes our mindset. It takes us from tired and lethargic to rejuvenated, excited, energetic. It brings creativity. And with creativity comes so many great things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a piece of being out in nature that I think we forget is, when you're outside and whether you're going for a walk or a hike or you're out at the ocean or on the lake, the peacefulness that eludes from being in those places is really what our body is searching for. We need to be quiet in order to have great ideas, for our creativity to blossom. I mean, think about when you're outside and you're looking at like how creative the world is. If you put it in this scope, I'm looking out the window right this second, and it's gorgeous. It may be gray, it's a little gray today, but the beautiful colors, the yellows and the golds and the greens, and all of this beauty is exciting, is uplifting. And to me, I want to be part of that beauty. I want to be part of that that being uplifted, because that makes me feel like I can do anything. Mm-hmm. Hey, I'm creative. I'm not creative if I'm just sitting here in front of a computer all day. But as soon as I go outside, there is a switch that gets flipped, and kind of the creativity flip or switch. Mm-hmm. And I think we don't recognize it because we've gotten numb to it.
There's a reset that happens. I find that Absolutely. Very true too. And as I'm sitting here at my desk and doing what I need to do and just feeling, especially when I have to come up with something that's creative, I certainly struggle. and if I've been sitting on my computer all day and then I have to come up with something creative, there's a lot of negative thoughts that happen. So there are times where I just need to go sit aside for a few minutes. I need to reset, a little bit of sun, just take a moment to forget all the negative thoughts that I had about, I can't come up with this. Maybe go for a quick walk. And I'm sure other people have noticed that when you're doing something that your mind's not engaged, you're taking a wash. Sometimes, this isn't outside, but sometimes it happens in the shower, right? You have these brilliant ideas. Well, it's because we stopped thinking about what we're supposed to do next, and we stopped thinking about all these other things, and we were quiet. And I like what you said about being quiet and having great things happen.
We're not quiet. We're not comfortable with quiet in our society.
We used to be.
We used to be. You know, the whole when you're speaking, the whole concept of the pregnant pause.
Mhm.
People are so uncomfortable with that. They want to fill words in as you're pausing. And a lot of times when you're talking, you know, you pause for because you're thinking, you pause because you want to make a point. And we're so uncomfortable with that pause, that quiet. And we're always thinking about the next thing to say,
Mhm.
whether it's in business, whether it's personal, you know, whatever relationship it is. I mean, how many times have you gone to a networking event and you're telling somebody something and you're either you pause for a second or, you know, take a sip of water and they're already like
Off
telling
on
you
another
like their
subject.
thing. Yeah.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, hold on a minute. Okay. This isn't, so this is, it's not really a conversation. It becomes, this is what I want to say. And then this is what I want to say.
And they're
And so
not
we
listening
all,
to what you have to say because all they're doing is thinking inside their head, what are they going to say next? Whether it has anything to do with, it's just not being present in that conversation.
absolutely. And being present, as you just said, is what's the best way to be present? Being out in nature.
Mhm.
I mean, if you're out there by yourself, you got nobody to talk to. It's probably a good thing. You talk to people all day long, you know, from the minute you get up. You know, actually, this is something that I started doing a handful of years ago, maybe more like 10 years ago, when my husband's schedule changed. A lot of times he's home in the mornings, later in the mornings. So he'll get up, he gets up earlier than I do. I'll stay in the bedroom and maybe do some meditation. Maybe I'll go out, you know, if depending on what time it is, I'll go outside. So I have my me time, my time to just to be and to feel and to think. Um, and then once I've done that, kind of started my day in a nice, easy, calm way, then I can
Mhm.
go out and start to engage. I think the challenge we have is we're engaged all the time.
Mhm. And that engagement is not always a task driven. That engagement, as we were talking about in our last segment, it can also be plugged into social media engagement, which is not actually true. I mean, we're engaged in things that have nothing to do with us. And half of the stuff on social media, honestly, isn't true. It's made up for the gram. Hmm.
Yeah, the whole concept, I mean, we've heard this, so many times, of fake news, but fake news has started, what did they used to call it? Propaganda.
Mhm.
That's been around forever. So, it's kind of one of those things. I remember my dad used to read the newspaper every Sunday faithfully, cover to cover. But he also used to say, I don't believe everything you read. I took that last bit with very seriously. Don't believe everything you read. Um, and at this stage in life, everything you see on social media, um, so much of the stuff that's coming at us. Let me change that. We're searching. It's not just coming at us. We actually have to physically go on to the apps, go onto the computer. So it is something that we are actually choosing to do.
Mhm.
If we choose wisely, choose differently, what is a way that we can still get what we need from the social media and from the computer and from the news? What is a way for us to get what we need from that, like that piece, but also fill what we need here
Mm.
and here?
Mhm.
Think about rejuvenating our body when we're outside. We rejuvenate our spirit, our mind, our body, and really our soul.
Mhm. And you had mentioned when we were talking before we started about enthusiasm and
Mm.
being excited about things. And so how do you feel that being outdoors, how does that affect our enthusiasm and our excitement towards things, do you think?
First of all, fresh air. Being stuck inside all the time, the air gets stale. I was talking to a feng shui person recently, and she had, as during the conversation, I realized I hadn't opened the windows to my office ever.
Oh, wow.
I have Mark has spring allergies. I have fall allergies. We have air conditioning, not really great for the ozone, but and I thought to myself, oh my God, I have static air, static energy.
Mhm.
No wonder there are days where I'm going, oh, I don't know what I want to do today. Kind of the air outside. Now, is it perfect? No, it's not. Is it better than being stuck inside all the time? Oh, yes. Fresh air, fresh, cool air, a fresh breeze. How do you feel? How does it make you feel? Think about how it makes you feel when you have this cool breeze on your face,
Mhm.
as opposed to sitting or standing here in front of, well, even in front of a fan. What's the difference? Does it feel different? That's rhetorical, but I'm also asking you, I think.
Yeah. But there is a huge difference, because it's not just the breeze, it's everything that comes with it. It's the smell and the sounds. It's all those senses that you are missing when you're sitting inside and stepping outside, no matter what the weather, even stepping outside in the rain and feeling the weather and feeling the sensations of what nature's bringing us for that particular moment is so important to our soul.
Oh, absolutely. I just got excited because there was a couple of days ago I was out on the trail, and I knew it's been kind of gray and rainy here, but we had a window that it wasn't going to pour on me. So I went outside. I was out on the trail, and I thought, oh, this is great. This is cool. I could feel the dew. I could feel the coolness. And then I did feel the rain. But think about when you were a kid. You jump in the puddles and you don't care that it's raining. So as an adult, okay, fine. Sure, you don't want to get stuck in the rain if you're in a business suit and you're going to work. But what's the harm of being out in the rain if you're going for a walk or a bike ride? How fun is that? It's such a different experience. And as adults, we were like, oh, I don't know about that. We did it when we were kids.
Yeah.
Kids love to be outside. Think about what your mom used to say to you when Mom, I'm bored. Go outside and play.
Mhm.
When we went outside and played, what did we do? We were creative. We created games. We used to play this one game, red light, green light, 1, 2, 3. It was the dumbest game, but we had rules. There was another one, where you took Mother May I took a couple of steps forward, and we did that for hours.
Mhm.
And another thing that nature does for us when we're out in nature and we're playing or we're walking or hiking or biking or whatever, rowing, whatever we're doing outside, sailing, by the time the day ends, we're actually tired, like physically tired, not emotionally tired or mentally tired. But our bodies are like, okay, we've had enough. It's now time to rejuvenate, regenerate our body. When we're out in nature, I'm going to go back to circadian rhythms. Nature helps our circadian rhythm. If we're not outside, if we're not experiencing fresh air, sunlight, the wind, the weather, we're missing out on so many different sensations.
Mhm.
In this day and age, we're so stuck in our heads. What about touch or feel,
Mhm.
hearing? What do you hear when you're in a room that's closed up? Is there a sound? A computer coming? Open the window. What do you hear then? Maybe you hear a bird. Go outside, then you hear all of the amazing sounds that nature has. And yeah, an occasional car here and there. But all of those things, being out in nature and all of those things that are out there, it makes us feel good about who we are, about where we are. It opens our mind. It allows us to just be. And all of that allows for that creativity that I think we're searching for. in life to enjoy it at a different level.
So the challenge for everyone is go outside.
The challenge for everyone, and maybe that's the thing we do. The challenge that we put out to everyone is plan your outdoor time
Without staring at your phone.
big time.
And be uncomfortable being quiet. So you can become comfortable being quiet.
Absolutely. If you go outside, leave your phone. Or at least turn
Thanks.
it off.
Thanks, Denise, so much.
Thanks, Jeanne.
Thank you so much for listening today. Today's show was sponsored by Seaside Solutions, my financial services company. As a business owner, it's easy to be pulled in many different directions, and often taking care of yourself plummets to the bottom of the list. For me, I find myself outside to reground. My time outdoors helps me manage my day more effectively and be more present for my clients. Through this, Discover Rising Tides was born. At Seaside Solutions, we truly believe that education is the foundation of financial wellness. Our primary focus is to provide guidance that is designed to help you achieve your long-term financial goals and visions. Working with a plan allows space for doing more things that you love, like being outside to make the inside better. If I can help you create or realign your plan, or if you would like to be added to my weekly newsletter, please let me know. This week's topic was 5 ways to set more achievable goals. Your referral means the big, beautiful world to me, and if I can help, please let me know. And thank you so much for listening, and see you next time.